The first time I laid eyes on the RWBY Red trailer, there was just something about it. I couldn't figure out how creator Monty Oum was achieving such an aesthetic beauty that I'd never seen in a fight scene before. He does something that animation has as a massive advantage over live action. Something that's not too difficult to choreograph, but is extremely difficult to execute. In fact, there's only one martial artist actually executing this technique today. But that is something I will save for a Donnie Yen video. Today we're not talking about poses, we're not talking about contrast and lighting. Today we are talking about lines. No, not the fun kind of lines. No, not Congo lines. Good old-fashioned photography lines. The kind you'll see chapters written about in photography books. Since the RWBY Red trailer is CGI and technology has really come a long way since it was released, we are very lucky that somebody recreated the entire thing, shot by shot, frame by frame, doing all the same choreography. They didn't do it as a way of stealing, it was just an exercise to challenge themselves. But it gives us this unique opportunity to compare the Monty Oum version with the, well, kind of rip-off remake version. And if you watch them side by side, you'll notice the remake doesn't achieve the same kind of aesthetic beauty that the Monty Oum version does. The reason, like I've alluded to, it's lines. Monty Oum makes sure to avoid the trope of superhero poses. We have seen these poses
again and again, and again and again and again, from different angles.
On the RWBY Red trailer, there are no poses, except there kind of are. Instead of there being poses where the action stops, there are moments in time, there are moments in the middle of techniques when things line up and create these beautiful parallels, like here where the gun and the upper thigh form perfect parallel lines. RWBY takes out a bad guy, does this roll right into a move where she's gonna shoot, but when she does, that gun is perfectly parallel with her back leg. This is by far a strength that animation and computer-generated animation have over any form of live-action fight scenes. If you are working in animation, you have such control. Within this one slow-motion shot, we see the weapon go parallel with the cape and the upper thigh and the lower leg. If we compare that to the newer version, yeah, the weapon and the lower leg, they're parallel, but the upper thigh is way off. I am not a fan of choreography being stolen, and in this case it was fully acknowledged that it was somebody trying to challenge themselves, but when choreography is stolen, it gives us this opportunity to compare one fight scene with another and see what exactly makes one work better than the other, because usually it comes down to minor details that we can execute ourselves to make our own fight scenes better. Here we don't just get the weapon parallel with an arm and the upper thigh of one leg, but the lower part of one leg lines up perfectly with the back leg that they're using to stand on. Things don't have to be separate on the screen as two different lines. Sometimes two body parts lining up perfectly to form a line is also a way to achieve that kind of aesthetic beauty. I freaking love this part. Look at the extension. The line on the bottom of the cape is parallel with the weapon, which is parallel with her thigh. And watch as she executes this move, pun intended, because it is kind of an execution. She follows through, and again, we get the weapon parallel with an arm, parallel with the thigh. That's twice that this kind of photographic use of lines comes up in one move. Yes, this fight does have flips and fancy moves, but they're far from the focus. It's obvious that they're not being used to achieve the wow factor. The wow factor is the aesthetic beauty of the lines. If you find another fight that's anything like this, please let me know, because I've watched RWBY and this doesn't happen anywhere else in the entire series. This is like a one-off piece of genius artwork. And talk about gorgeous. Look, her thigh lines up with her whole body, which lines up with the shin on the left side. So we've got two parallel lines going up, and then side to side we've got the weapon parallel with the thigh again, giving us pairs of parallel lines going in opposite directions. They're almost perpendicular to one another, which is another way of using lines to create this kind of beauty. Not just having them parallel, but also having lines that are perpendicular to one another. If we compare this frame to the closest frame in the remade version, you can see that the lines in the remade version are a mess. They're all over the place. Yeah, the guy who made it did a great job, but they obviously missed this whole idea of what Monty Oum was doing with lines. Now, that's not to say that every instance of using this kind of pose in the middle of action is perfect. There is going to be one near the end, and you're going to spot it without me even pointing it out. But on our way there, watch as Monty Oum uses the same lines to emphasize the increase in speed and intensity in the fight scene. The character leaps through the air, and yeah, we get the two lower legs parallel with the weapon, but as the speed increases, the legs bend backwards so that the entire leg, not just the lower part, is now parallel with the weapon. And it doesn't end at being parallel or perpendicular. These kind of lines can also be used in a way to create symmetry within the frame. Here, the blade of the scythe curves up towards the corner of the screen, and the cape mirrors it and curves up towards the opposite corner, creating this long, gorgeous symmetry within the frame, which is emphasized by the presence of the parallel lines. And of course, this one has the gorgeous aspect of both legs lined up so that both thighs are parallel with a 90-degree angle, and both shins are parallel. The shins are parallel with her spine, and of course the thighs, as usual, are parallel with the weapon. But we did pass that pose I said you would recognize as being out of place. Let's watch it again. It's this one. What the hell is going on here? I think it was just in Monty Oum's head that he wanted this kind of anime-esque knees together, lower legs apart sort of thing. But it's the only instance in this entire fight where there is an obvious attempt at a pose that comes out as a complete mess in terms of lines. Just because these two thighs are parallel doesn't mean that the frame has actually achieved a sort of beauty. It's not automatic, but it is a brilliant way to guide your choreography to achieve something gorgeous.
If you've watched until this part of the video, then you probably genuinely want to become a better fight choreographer. The stuff in this video, I definitely wouldn't be able to even spot in fight scenes if I hadn't read a book called Photographically Speaking by a Canadian photographer named David Dushman. So I put a link to that in the description. I recommend checking it out. I found most of the things that helped me become a better fight choreographer were books that had nothing to do with martial arts. So this is one that made a big difference for me, and hopefully it helps you out too. Have a good one. Yeah, this is my favorite.